Thank you very much. First of all, it's so funny listening to the introduction. That is literally my LinkedIn profile. Thank you so much, Carla.
I have to admit it.
It makes me think how old I am. Sounds like a very, very long time of working, and also makes me feel missing the Philippines because it's been a while since I've actually been to Batangas. I think 5 years ago was the last time I've been to Batangas. But yeah, thank you so much for having me here. First and foremost, I think to Dr. Malongat and Dr. Castor, thank you for inviting me to this morning here in Berlin. Afternoon na there in Batangas. And thank you so much to all of you, 69 of us here, taking some time away from our family. It's Saturday, but I'm super happy to be able to share my experience. From about 15 years ago, I started thinking about my career without an actual goal. And over the years, I found that actually it's okay not to have a goal in the beginning, and you take life as it is. And at some point in your life, you also stumble upon people and experiences, and you gotta learn, right? So for me, the last 15 years have been extremely difficult, challenging, fun, exciting. But what I've realized is to truly look um, into yourself and really build your own brand. There's only one you in this world. There's actually a book that I've recently gotten for my little girl called "There's Only One You." And I'll probably start with that. And I think a lot of you who are here could relate to the challenges when you're firstly looking for work, trying to get an internship. It's okay to struggle in the beginning. You don't always have it. The first time, the second time you try, you don't get a job, you don't get an internship. But you keep trying, and then you get and secure your first job. So firstly, I think the topic today is mainly relating to obviously recruiting, building up your profile, setting up your LinkedIn profile. I'll talk a little bit about Facebook later on. I know a lot of you are on Facebook, and also really focusing on building up your social media presence. So we had a year of COVID. Firstly, I hope that you are all doing well and safe and healthy. There are a lot of cases of COVID here in Germany as well. So we are stuck at home. So there are also other ways now of interviewing, attending your classes. This is a very good example of that. We're all online, four corners of our room. But we still try to connect, to engage with the other person on the line. And that's essentially about also when you interview, there are preparations needed to be able to engage on the screen, right? So I will also discuss about that. I actually prepared this first slide just to talk through how I got to where I am now. But I think Carla did a better job, at least in terms of how I could introduce myself. I don't really like introducing myself because I feel it looks good when you look at the list, but at the same time, there's a lot of hard work and challenges behind this 15 years of experience in HR and recruitment, but also really, coming from the Philippines, coming from Batangas, a small town, and being able to also compete at an international level, it doesn't come easy. A lot of sleepless nights, a lot of hard work, 15 hours of work behind the scenes to be able to compete at different level. So it's not as easy as it looks like. And that is something that at least for this workshop or mini training that we'll have today, that is one thing I'd like to be able to share with you is that on face value, it looks easy. 10 years, 15 years down the track, it looks like you've got a lot under your belt. but there are a lot of hard work that goes with it, right? And hopefully today will build you up, start your career. What are the tips, and actually very simple tips, and back to the basics of how you create your brand, your own brand. Um, so maybe in this slide, the first there are obviously a lot in there, and I think it's a combination of work experience and having met a lot of people. But I think one thing that I know and I've noticed about myself is that I actually love brands. I brands that help solve problems for people, for businesses, brands that I think I can represent. They are the ones that really truly resonate with me, right? So let's start in the sense that what is it that you actually love doing? Let's start with the basic. That is the only way to be able to set up your brand going forward. And that relates to your own career as well. The way I look at it, the way we can get a job is to be able to sell your own purpose, right? So, um, this, Mr. Matas, can you show the three? Can you show the three?
I will take it out of presentation because it's very difficult to manage it in Zoom.
Yeah,
So just gonna do like this, sister. Okay.
yeah. So let's start with this. And feel free to also put information and questions on the chat box. Um, so how do you actually create a brand for yourself? Where do you begin? And why is it actually important to create your own profile? When I look at branding, it's profiling, right? Why is it so important? So firstly, it is about you. In the first few minutes of my introduction, I always mention, look, it's about you being the only person in this world. There's no other person in this world that is similar to you. You are unique. So let's identify your key strengths. Let's identify your values. What do you actually enjoy doing? Because the more you know what you like and what you enjoy doing, everything comes naturally in your career, in your life, in dealing with your family, dealing with your friends, in a social setting. If you are, say, for example, more of a shy type and doesn't really want to talk in parties, you then, maybe can get a more analytical type of internship or job, right? You probably won't see yourself talking all day long like me because I'm a recruiter. I talk all day long because that's the core of my job, and I do enjoy that. What would be someone like, who enjoys numbers? Then they might actually take up engineering or accounting, or anything related to the medical field, because that's something that comes naturally with them. So try and kind of understand in your early days and when you're studying, what are the things that you are good at, and really hone that skill, right? So identify the values that are also important to you. What are the values that are important to you? For me, I love dealing with people. I like solving problems. I like talking to my family. I like to, so it's the value of people and being able to connect, right? So you have got to understand what are the things that you truly enjoy. What are the things that you find enjoyable on the daily. There are times as well that you don't want to, wake up because you're a bit lazy and you're not feeling good and you don't know what to do during that day. That's also okay, right? So it's fine to just really maybe list and have a list of things that you truly enjoy, and 70% out of 100, that 70% will get you through that day, or get through your career, or your um, initial part of your career. Oh, I lost my presentation.
Sorry, I lost connection. Are we back?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Let me share screen again. There you go.
Thank you. And I think relating to that first point, what are the skills you think you have and that you would like to develop further? Going back again to the basics, if you love numbers, then maybe you can try and suss out a career in accounting or a career in engineering. If you think that your passion is about media and product and you enjoy brands, then maybe a career in marketing or a career in media, or these days, a career as an influencer. And by the way, that is the TikTok, this whole thing is so massive, and a lot of people actually make money around this and truly enjoy it as well. It's not just about financial returns, but also really enjoying your day, right? And I think that that first exercise of identifying what is you like and what values resonate with you is the very, very important step. Without that, you cannot actually have an action plan and a strategy going forward. So that also, similarly, when you're applying it for an internship, you have got to also know what you're good at and what you enjoy. And then you kind of identify companies and industries that you'd like to represent. Um, for me, I really love companies that solve problems. I really love companies like professional services or now I'm in fintech. So I don't know if you've heard of fintech. At least in Germany, financial services, they are very traditional, um, uh, very traditional of doing things. You still can't pay using Apple Pay, something like that, or you cannot pay online. You still need to have a cash to be able to buy a sandwich from a store, right? So now here in Berlin, particularly, maybe to just give you some overview of what are the companies or the interest industries that are big in Berlin, it's really startup industries. So companies that are in a way disrupting the traditional way of doing things. So now they're introducing Apple Pay, they're introducing that it's not, you don't necessarily need to be in a bank to be able to do a banking transaction. You do everything online, you pay using your phone, you pay using a code or a barcode. So this is something that is new to Germany. And when I moved here from Australia, I felt like, okay, what can I do? How can I add value? What are the things that are interesting to me? So I find that industry very, very interesting. And I tried to research what Berlin is about. I tried to research what companies like Solaris Bank, where I work now, what do they do? So with the companies that I like to follow, I like to be able to represent them. If I don't believe in what they do, I cannot represent them, right? I can't be 100% able to do my daily job if I don't believe in the company. So going back, when you identify your companies, when you apply for internship, what are the things that are actually that attracted you to this company, whether it's Procter and Gamble, whether it's Colgate, why do you like them? What is it that you think should be does it help the community? Does it help the the way you do things on a daily? So this is something that I think you can relate your values to a company, and it's a matchup. It's if you like, it's a marriage, right? So what you like and what you enjoy should resonate with the values of that company or that industry. Say, for example, I wouldn't want to work for a cigarette company or a company that, you know, uh, um, say, for example, that harm the environment. That is something I don't want to ever do, right? So you can actually identify something that truly helps the community or something bigger uh, than yourself or others, right? So that's just my opinion. And you can do something else if you feel like, okay, I actually want to work for ABS-CBN, and or maybe they're no longer there. And feel like, okay, because they add entertainment, they make me happy, or they make people who are going through sadness in their life, and then they see artists, and then they make them. You feel happiness around it. So whatever it may be, it needs to be something that you think you'd be able to represent and that you enjoy, right? Any questions so far or comments, or feel free to also message on the chat if you want to ask any questions. And then here, I like this last part, finding gaps in the market that you'd like to solve and add value. And I don't know if you've heard of this term, growth mindset. It's really the philosophy that you'd like to learn on a daily basis. Maybe it's a small thing that you learn, or you read through an article, or you read something about I don't know, like economics and things like that. It's important that every single interaction that you learn something new, right? And having this mindset of solving problems, because if you are not actually solving a problem, you've identified a problem, but you don't know how to solve it, it also doesn't benefit anyone or yourself, right? So you need to be able to have this mindset that when you identify a problem, you need, with your skill sets, with your values, and with your purpose, and marrying that up with the companies that you find. And a good example that I find, say, me, I've learned so much about recruitment, and also specializing now in financial technology. I find that there's not a lot in Berlin or in Germany or around the world who has this experience that I have. So that build up, scale up, and companies from scratch to bigger teams. So there's not many in the world who have had experience in fintech, and particularly in talent acquisition. So I saw that gap. So now I've made my career in a way bulletproof and soundproof, if you like, that anywhere in the world I go, I will be in demand, because I have now gained this experience in financial technology that not a lot of people do have, particularly in talent acquisition. So you need to identify your skill sets and your values that you enjoy with the companies that have problems. What are the problems that you see? You solve it through your skills. You solve it through your values. You solve it through market intelligence. What do you know about the market, right? So having this in your early life, I wish someone told me that it's actually important to have this mindset of always solving problems, always adding value, and always be learning, whether it's small thing, I don't know how to cook, or interest in reading recipes. That is actually over a few years is a cumulative thing. You build up your skill in reading recipes, you build up your skill sets in learning a new language. So having that mindset will definitely make you stand out in the professional world. So that's kind of the three pillars that I see in brand building. And whether it's a company's brand or whether your brand, you connect it. And I think having this and solidifying this and validating this over a period of time, because this also doesn't happen overnight, right? So you got to be patient with this process. And over time, you'll be able to see, and you can do a retrospective. Okay, that makes sense. I've moved to a different company. I've learned something new. I learned new skills. And then in the end, you actually carve a niche for yourself. And that is how you build a brand and being able to set up a career for yourself. Hey. Is it possible to make this a little bit bigger?
Yeah. Let me try. Hold on. This is the most, sister?
Yeah, okay. So maybe I pause there. Any questions from the chat? Anything that you want to ask?
Sorry. Although we will allocate time later if you want,
Okay, then I'll.
so that you can just push through with your presentation.
Okay, cool.
Students, please ready your questions for Clarice later on.
Great. So I'll continue on then. How do you actually build your personal goals or your life strategy? I like to look at it as a life strategy, and then translate that into your professional strategy. There is this technique that I've heard, or back in my, De La Salle days, someone told me, okay, use a SMART technique. It didn't resonate with me then. I was like, what is this SMART technique? But since then and over the years, I actually realized how important this SMART technique is. So SMART, so it stands for specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time bound, right? Or timely. It applies to your personal life strategy. It applies to everything that you do. It's basically starting with and identifying a specific goal. Without identifying your specific goal, you don't get to the very end. You don't achieve your goal. So whether it is starting an application, setting up your resume, what does it look like? How many hours do you need to spend putting in your resume and getting someone to check it? So that is actually planning, making sure that you identify exactly what you want as an end result. Without that in mind, you cannot start anything. And then most definitely you won't reach it. So make it specific. So some examples that I put in here that hopefully resonates with you. I would like to work for a global company, whether it is Facebook or Google or Procter & Gamble or Colgate. Start perfecting your CV and tailor it to each application. You cannot expect that you get a job right away without putting a lot of work in it. And it's not also to make it measurable. So moving into the M part of SMART, you might send 30 applications or 50 applications, 100 applications until you actually secure that first internship. And that is okay. A lot of people are probably doing more than you without you knowing it. So put in that hard work, right? And it's okay also to feel discouraged when you get your first regret or rejection. That is completely normal. The amount of time I've got rejections is I cannot even count it in my hands, right? And I do feel like that actually also makes you strong and that builds up character, right? So make it measurable, really put in the numbers because that's just the way it is, right? Make it actionable as well. Be willing to do an internship, perhaps, it's not paid, but you learn something from it and put a timeline to it, 6 to 9 months, perhaps. And make sure that you're always adding value in everything that you do, right? And that is something that people will know. And how do you add value at that first part of your career? It's through shadowing. It's through learning from someone who has done it before. Because, when I first started, I actually didn't know what to do. And I observed, I've learned, I've asked someone to give me 30 minutes of their time to tell me about what they enjoy about what they do. And also really, truly observing. That's also when you learn how to drive, you don't necessarily know how to already do it. You observe it. And then by observing, you do, right? And then at some point, 6 to 9 months and typically around 12 months, that is how you actually learn a new skill. 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months time frame. So
Sorry,
don't
Lottie.
yeah.
I just want to say something. This group of graduating students actually have problems with the on-the-job training because of the COVID incidents. So unlike our previous students in the past that they can actually go into a company and shadow some of the experts, for example, this group we only simulated in the school. So it is a more challenging, I mean, task for them, because after this, they'll be really applying for jobs. And this might, can you focus on that a little bit, on the actionable thing? How can they do that, even if they are within the COVID period?
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. I think it still applies, right? And I think even more so, you just add a different layer it's a different format, but that doesn't mean that you can't ask someone for 30 minutes of their time. So I think I'll actually go through that a little bit later, but I can already answer that. This is similar for anyone in the company as well. Say I have a couple of interns in my team, and they exactly say the same thing. It's every single call that we do on Zoom these days, at least for the last year or so.
It's 6 o'clock.
Ooh, okay. So I think the way I answered their question is like, oh, Clarice, I don't have time to actually learn because I'm always just in my house. And I was like, so I challenge you. How would you do it when you're actually in the office? You will still send a message to someone, or when you're getting a coffee and on the way to your meeting, you probably want to speak to someone and say, look, I actually really enjoy the way you do things, or the work that you're doing, and I'm interested in perhaps looking for a mentor, or I would like to know what you do on a daily basis. You still ask that question, but in the COVID times, you just basically send an invite on Zoom. And I know we get all zoomed out after a whole day and listening to lectures and etc. But I think 15 to 20 minutes of the other person's time, as long as you ask them as well, they won't. People who ask for help and really are genuine to learn, people actually make time. So at least that's my experience. And it may not happen right away, but say, okay, in 2 months time, let's put it in your calendar, let's put it in everyone's calendar, and make a time with this person because you're genuinely wanting to learn from this person. So I think that 15 to 20 minutes is gonna really set you up for success and actually change your life, because not everyone do this. It's hard to make that first move and even ask the question, do you have time so that I can learn from you? So if you have that gut to ask, you're already making yourself stand out, because not everyone does that. So have the courage to ask for help. Start with that and make the time in your diary, in your calendar, to actually make it happen. It goes back to that identifying your goal. What is your goal? I want to learn. I want to get this job. I want to learn a new language. I want to work abroad. I want to work for a company outside of the Philippines. How do you do that? You have got to put in the hard work and have the courage to ask. Um, and I think that is really make it actionable, is to putting it in your diary. Actually sending that Zoom email as an invite is a good starting point.
Yeah.
So and make it realistic, right? So the R and the SMART, because, and I think it also boils down to, I think it relates, Dr. Manlongat, it relates to your question.
Yeah.
Basically, how is it realistic? And it, again, I go back to this question that it doesn't happen over time. You need to really push harder, with making it seamless, obviously at the back, and people don't know how much work you put in. The most important thing is the outcome. You make it easy, or you make it look easy, so people actually engage with you. How do you do that? Practice over a long period of time, right? So make it realistic. Ask for someone's time and see if the person said, look, maybe in 3 months time or in 6 weeks, but still ask for it, because people do like to help in the end. And make it timely. Give yourself a due date. So after 12 months, what have you learned? What skills do you actually have taken on over that period? And I always give myself, if I want to learn something new, I give myself 9 to 12 months. Actually, that is the right time to be able to master and learn a new skill. One example that I have had, and I think Dr. Manlongat is an expert on this in baking. I was never a baker, right? And these past few months, I've learned, okay, I'll start with learning how to do muffins or, and now I can bake banana bread, I can bake whatever. I don't like measurements. That is something that I don't like. But you know what? It's not that I don't like it. I actually want to learn it. So having that mindset of wanting to learn it is actually, that's what's gonna set you up for success. And of course, now I'm in halfway through learning how to bake. So maybe I can have a competition when I with Dr. Manlongat when I go to
I
go back
didn't know
to
anything as well. It's Dr. Castor actually who likes to cook, isn't it?
That's true.
Well,
Teach yourselves because we have husbands and kids. You're
I
very
don't like baking because I don't like measurements. I just make, you know, I gauge everything, and
you buy the ingredients and you pin
my
it here.
tongue is my measurement. My taste buds is my taste buds is my measurement.
Am I moving on to the next slide?
Yes, please. All right. So this is actually the fun part. I'm sorry I'm talking too much, but I think we will get there. So some prep work for your own brand building. I think let's go back again. I always like to put it, and go back to your purpose. What is your why? And you become intentional. Every single task. Why are you actually doing things on repeat? Right? It goes back to your purpose. Maybe you enjoy it. And if it feels so difficult, if it doesn't feel natural, that maybe is not your why. So think about it. Why are things quite difficult sometimes? Why does it take so much effort? Because maybe that is not what you enjoy. So always go back to your why. Always go back to your purpose. And how does that translate now into actionable points, right? So create your social media presence that is unique to you, answering your why, right? And it's not just Facebook. When you're actually building a career, try and find the right platforms that actually get you there. Some of the platforms that I know and I've been using in the past is definitely LinkedIn. And I don't know how LinkedIn is used in the Philippines these days, but I'm pretty sure that it's still very much so the professional network globally. So start with your LinkedIn profile. And this might also answer your question, how do I apply outside of the Philippines, or how do I apply outside of the companies that I know? There are so many little companies out there, the likes of freelance.com or Upwork. This is actually a global platform where you find jobs. I actually see so many Filipinos in these platforms. It's probably they're doing, design, or they're doing product design, they're doing building up websites, they're actually engineers or engineers and developers. And there are so many Filipinos who are so skilled, but no one shares these platforms. And you can actually get paid through these platforms across the globe. And I think there is no other time in the world or in our lifetime that is the easiest to get a job. And even if you're writing a blog, or whether it's a blog about baking or whether it's a blog about investment, you can monetize it. So don't take this for granted. If that is something that you like and you like being in the computer all day long, then better learn how to create a website, or how do you monetize something. Use it for your advantage. Create a good presence, make it more professional, so that people, and put reviews in there, engage your audience so that people then can come back to you and say, well, I actually trust what's on the website. And have people actually review you who are also known or are influencers, if you like, in that area of your expertise. For students, particularly, and for interns, and I didn't realize this when I was starting, it's really important to clean up your Facebook pages. Everyone is looking at your Facebook pages, whether you like it or not, right? Try Googling yourself and look what comes up, right? It's really important to remove photos or messages or, things that you are not proud of, because it comes back. And I never realized how important that is. Once it's on the internet, it's for everyone to see, it's for everyone to consume. you have no control of it. And that's just the new world that we live in. So things that you don't want your future managers to see. So please be mindful of this, and really start from there. I think that's the first step. Especially if you are now looking for your next job. Me as a recruiter, I literally stalk people. Of course, that's not going to be the basis of my decision making, whether to hire or not, but it gives me an indication of who this person is. Is this person resonating with the values of the company? A lot of this, and no one tells you that, but it is what it is. People actually make judgments. We do have biases. We're humans, right? And that also comes through recruitment. And that's why when we work with our hiring managers, or when I work with hiring managers, I try and remove that bias. How do you assess someone effectively and objectively? By removing the bias. Because when we grow up, we do have these biases in mind, and that's just natural. This is, how our parents have taught us what is good, what is right, what is bad, what is not. It really makes you as you are as a person, depending on how your exposure to the environment, to the people that you deal with on a daily basis. And that comes along as well when you're hiring. So I work with a lot of Germans, obviously. I work with a lot of English from the UK. I work with Japanese, all sorts of international backgrounds, right? So we have formulated in our mind how we assess. So just be careful with this, that there are always biases. You cannot remove biases 100%. So portray, or if you like, make it genuine, that your profile on LinkedIn, on your websites or whatever, is professional. It's important that that is the face that you have to the world, because at the end of the day, if it's not professional enough, people make assumptions. So that's a good starting point when you're applying for jobs, whether it's in the Philippines or outside. It's the same philosophy. People make assumptions on your profile. So clean up your Facebook. So moving on. So let's look into LinkedIn a little bit more, because this is really the professional network website that you need to build up your profile on when you want to apply for any job. Put a picture that best represents you. It doesn't always need to be too formal these days, because now we all work from, we're in Corona, COVID times. If you feel like you want to put in something when you're wearing a hoodie, just you can be yourself, but not too much, right? Still put in your professional profile, right? And make sure that everyone, when they see your picture, they can relate to you. And make sure that it's, when you're applying for any sort of job, whether it's media, whether it's marketing, whether it is applying at TikTok, and they want to see the fun part of you, still make sure that you are presentable, and it's not too formal, but people can engage with your picture. Having said that, some people don't put their profile on picture on their LinkedIn. I actually literally, as a recruiter, don't even open these profiles, because if they're not brave enough to put in, or spend some time putting in a picture on their profile, there are people who actually put in a lot of effort in their LinkedIn profile. And that's what I'm interested in. People who stand out, people who put in time. So always make sure that you actually spend a little bit of thought and thinking time of what that picture would look like when people look at it. And also have a friend or someone, maybe a teacher, can say, look, what do you think of my profile? Get someone to critique it, and just have that kind of balance. Because sometimes you have your own view, and it's okay if you have your own view, but get someone, one or two or three people, to just look at your profile just to check it and ask them for feedback. Introduce yourself by identifying your skills and expertise. Make it appealing. Don't make it too long. People these days have a very small, limited span of time, of span of attention. They don't want to spend time, hours on end, particularly recruiters. They just want short and sweet, narrative enough, thorough enough, but it is also, maybe half a pager, half a page is enough to describe who you are. And then also when you're already on LinkedIn and you've built up your profile, there's a picture, there's a narrative about you, then follow companies that interest you. Again, going back to the companies that you like to represent, and start engaging, liking influencers or liking topics that you're interested in. And then when you build up that confidence and you have a good following of followers, then you can start posting and really adding value to that community and to that audience. Then we can move on to some LinkedIn profiles. Actually, I researched this 2 days ago. There are actually top Filipino profiles to follow on LinkedIn. And I've started following these people. I'm really interested. I'm really engaged in what they do. I will get you guys to check these people out. And there is this also the source there. There are like 100 top 100 Filipinos to follow on LinkedIn. And I think you'll have fun just viewing different profiles. I actually put in more females here. So I always look at, diversity and inclusion. There are so many women out there that are really doing so well in the business world. And these are some of the ones that I actually enjoy looking. I've been binge watching some of this YouTube from this person, Sheena, and also Andrea. So I'll let you guys have a look at that in your own time.
All right.
Okay, so preparing for online interviews. It's a virtual dialogue these days. And
Yes,
this is the best.
I requested this because I wasn't able to finish this lecture. So you do it.
Great, great. I think if you do just a Google search, right, there's like a ton of tips and do's and don'ts now with online interviews. I found this one very, very simple tip. There's a source over there as well at the bottom. So essentially, do a test run. Today we're a little bit late, but because I usually spend maybe 15 to 20 minutes before a very important meeting or an interview, I test run my computer. Is it working? Do I have internet connection? And also I ask the question to the person who's interviewing, are you gonna put the video on or is this more audio? So just having kind of like an understanding of what it would look like helps you already prepare. Firstly, have a computer and make sure that it is actually working, right? So test run it 15 minutes or 20 minutes before the actual event or the actual time. And also the perfect spot. Unfortunately, I don't have any other way. This is the spot in my house. But also just position your laptop so that people can actually see your face, that there are emotions, there are also nonverbal ability to engage. So make sure that you can actually talk, that you frame yourself in the square or in the laptop, right? And have light, if so people can actually see your facial expression. It's not just the things that comes out of your mouth, right? So it's also really the non-verbal. Are you engaged? Are you bored? Are you sleepy? And please don't pick out your nose when you're actually interviewing. It really does make a difference, right? And eliminate distractions, right? So I have a child. My daughter always comes into my meetings, but when I have a very, very important meeting, I lock the door so that she doesn't come in. So if you have also pets or I don't know, that jump into your computer that might actually close your laptop, then you start again. Then you also, distract the other person on the side. So if it's a very important meeting and you want something out of it, remove all distractions. Make sure that your husband doesn't pass through without a shirt, things like that. Or your whatever grandparents like started doing vacuum cleaning. Make sure that there is really no distractions so you can focus on the conversation. Sit up and dress professionally. It's super important. Whilst it's on the other side of the screen, people actually pick you out even more, and they really judge you even more without actually them telling you. Because now, if you are in an interview room, there's actually a space between you, maybe a table, maybe the room is much bigger, so you sit quite far away from each other. But when you are in this phone, in this video call setup, it's even more intense. People can see your face and every part of your face, right? So sit up and dress professionally. It says something about you, that you've prepared, that you put in effort, right? Don't come in with your sandal, yeah? When interviewing, put a tie if possible. If it's a company that is a bit more professional, but if it's more a fun-loving company like TikTok or Google or whatever, then you can just maybe wear a happy shirt, but still professional enough. That is really, really important. Calm your nerves. How do you calm your nerves? Through preparation. Anticipate questions that may come up. And try to also know more about the company, so that when the interviewer asks you questions that you don't expect, you can still be able to answer. And it's also okay to pause. When you don't know the answer, pause, let your brain work. That is a difficult question. I didn't expect that, but okay, let me just process it. It's actually okay to say that. Pause, have a thinking time, then you'll know what to say. And again, with calming your nerves, it's really through preparation. When you're prepared, you're calmer. Yeah. And look your interviewer in the eye. How do you do that when you're on this setup? It's really looking into the camera. It's super, super important, so that the person then see that you are really engaging. These are the key tips that I know, but I think the traditional way of interviewing still remains, right? You still have your know the company, find out about the company. That is still key, right? The online interview is just basically an added preparation on your normal traditional preparation for an interview. It's just mostly logistics and the lighting and the engaging on the with the eye and what have you. But it still comes with your traditional preparation. Be on time. It's really, really important. I don't know, in the Philippines, I think we like to be a little bit late here and there. But here in Germany, I dial in 3 minutes before the actual interview, so that I can anticipate, technical hiccups, my laptop not starting quickly. So give that time when you are actually interviewing. That is the most important tip for online interviews. I think we're nearly there. I'm gonna go through the last page. I like this. This is kind of like the how do I say, just general do's and don'ts of life, but it actually does help you in your career. I like being on time in every meeting. Maybe it's because I've become a little bit German these days, that I get really annoyed when people are late, because I made it a point that I'm on time. Create a positive impression. Confidence help a lot in here. How do you become confident? You prepare. Put in the work. Preparation is key. Be objective. Also be curious. Ask questions. People actually like it when you are interested in what they do, whether it is a gathering at a friend's place or not. These days it's not going to happen, but it's really your social interaction when you do ask questions and you are really curious about the other person. That creates, you build relationship. People are engaging with you because you want to know more about them. Have a goal in mind in everything that you do. This brings you back to your purpose, your intention. Always contribute in every single meeting. Don't stay silent when there is actually a group work, say, for example. Always add something valuable in every meeting. This is something that I actually really find very, very interesting. Not a lot of people do this, that when they attend a meeting, because it's not their meeting, they just keep silent. Then why did you even attend if you're just going to go silent? something, a word here and there, it makes a huge difference, right? Protect your energy. Be resilient. What do I mean by protecting your energy? Don't get disappointed when it's not necessary. It's not personal, right? It's not about you. Are you adding, if you know that you're adding value and people disagree with you, it's also okay. And that's nothing that you need to worry about. Don't use up your energy on things that are not necessary. Don't stress yourself, and just protect that energy. You know what you're bringing to the table. Be resilient. How do you become resilient? Things, if the going gets tough, you feel like, oh, it's so disappointing, it's so discouraging. It's just a day. The following day all gets better. And the resilience in an office is super, super important. Resilience in everything that we do is super, super important. It's not going to be perfect. Life is not perfect. And so as in the office, people, there are always people who will bring you down, and that's okay. The following day, you'll be better. So that resilience is super important in also getting your first job. Create your personal board member. I really like this. I wish someone told me about this, because there is a, if you know, if you're running a business, there's a board of directors, right? So in a school, there is also a board of, you know, you have your teachers, you have your mentors, etc. Similarly for you, when you apply for an internship, when you apply for your first job, create your own board members. Have a mentor, have an ally, have a cheerleader. If you're not feeling, you're not having a good day, have a friend that cheers you up and that looks at your positivity. Have a critique so that they tell you exactly, no filter, that work is bad, do it again. So have that person who is able to tell you honest feedback, because you want that honest feedback to be able to do better the next day or in your next project. And of course, have that buddy. You don't want someone who you know, when you start a new job, you don't ask your manager for everything, because you want to have this professional way. Then have a buddy that can help you throughout your first 2 months or your first few days at the company. That is super important, to have the people who can cheer you up, who can bring you positivity in your career, because it's not going to be easy. It's not easy to also progress when you don't have mentors and allies along the way. Have a can-do attitude. It always create opportunities. Some people say, oh, I don't think I can do that. To say, I can do that. Even though you can't do it, you prepare the background. You find out what you actually need to do, because not a lot of people will say, yes, I can do that. But actually, you can do it. And then those people won't get opportunities, but you will, because you say, I can do it. I think it comes from, I don't know if you know Richard Branson. He is the owner and founder of the Virgin Group, because you don't always need to be the person who knows how to do things. You can find it out, because other people will say no, but you didn't. So you get that opportunity. Again, have a growth mindset, always be learning, always, you know, try to learn a new skill every day. And always believe in yourself. You are unique. Your imperfections make you, you. So I will stop there. And hopefully you've learned something